The Bush administration calls them enemies of the United States, stripped of many legal rights. But the U.S. Supreme Court says no. Next on Global Pulse. Today on Global Pulse, we look at how news outlets around the world are covering the Supreme Court's unprecedented challenge to the Bush administration. For the third time, the court ruled inmates at Guantanamo Bay have the right to challenge their detention. NBC News reported the significant difference in the ruling this time.
This ruling means the 270 or so detainees now get the constitutional right to have their lawyers come before federal judges here in Washington and argue this: you've got the wrong guy. And because the ruling is based on the Constitution, Congress cannot take detainee rights away simply by passing a law, as it did 2 years ago.
Years of perceived injustice and brutality at Guantanamo Bay took a human face with the detention of one man, Al Jazeera photojournalist Sami Haj. Al Jazeera used Haj's release after 6 years as a prisoner to voice the brutal conditions inside the secretive military camp and its outrage at his treatment.
Finally at home, but at first the emotion was just too much for Sami. Too weak to walk, he was carried off the plane by US soldiers. Sami stopped eating as a desperate claim of his innocence. He was force-fed through his nose.
Conditions in Guantanamo are very bad, and they get worse by the day. Our human condition, our human dignity was violated, and the American administration went beyond all human values.
Here at Al Jazeera, relief at Sami's release, but also anger at the accusations made against him. Sami al-Haj is now a free man, but his ordeal is not over yet.
I want to highlight the reason for my detention. One of the reasons was to silence the work of free media.
ABC News also covered Haj's release. The network was sympathetic to his 6-year ordeal, but also presented the military's hardline stance against the prisoners at Guantanamo.
Today, an emotional reunion with his family, including the son he has not seen since he was a baby. The military is making no apologies. The Pentagon insists he was a dangerous enemy combatant and, quote, a manipulator and a propagandist. The military gave several reasons for his detention. He had provided support for militants in Chechnya, transported cash for an associate of Osama bin Laden, and distributed, quote, terrorist propaganda over the internet. But he was never charged.
The free media was not silent in reporting on the Guantanamo decision. Headlines in newspapers around the world left no question who was seen as the true loser. Supreme hit to Bush's war on terror, read Australia's Herald Sun. Crushing blow for Bush over Guantanamo, topped Britain's Metro newspaper. From the International Herald Tribune, on Guantanamo, Justice 5, Brutality 4. The narrow 5-4 decision mirrored the sharp division that extended to the top of the Bush administration and Congress, as Fox News and Iran's Press TV pointed out.
The United States Attorney General Michael Mukasey said he was disappointed with the Supreme Court's decision allowing Guantanamo detainees to question their imprisonment in U.S. civilian courts. But U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates once again repeated his view that early reports of abuses have been a black eye for the United States. Gates said the center should be closed, but they should find ways to deal with the prisoners.
I think the American public is not going to be pleased to hear that we've given al-Qaeda more rights than Nazis and that federal judges can let these people go.
And according to a poll taken after the ruling, Senator Graham may be right. The Washington Post ABC News poll found 61% of Americans asked think non-citizens suspected of terrorism should not have the right to challenge their detention in civilian courts. Only 34% said they should. But as the BBC reported, a military officer defending a Guantanamo prisoner believes the ruling is a major turning point.
We don't apply the Constitution selectively to people we like only. I mean, it applies to anyone. And if anything, the most important thing is that it applies to our enemies as well. That's the measure of us.
For Global Pulse, I'm Erin Coker.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only US network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.